Hey guys, we're here. We got Lucky Draw Podcast, episode number 7. I can't believe we're at 7 already. It's kind of crazy. As always, we got Tiger over here. Troy couldn't make it today. Definitely had to take some time for himself, but it's not a bad thing. Sometimes you've got to take some time for yourself and not push it. So we'll hopefully see him next week. Maybe we'll have some food for thought. We'll add in on the YouTube channel and one of our shorts now that we're going to start doing stuff like that. Um, Starting out the week though, we had our giveaway of the booster bundle, not box. I bet you they wish it was a box. Uh, we've been opening a bunch of boxes today, some Journey Together stuff, all stuck in my head. But we got the Surging Sparks booster bundle. I talked to Louis. Shipping wise to Quebec was kind of crazy, so we're gonna open it. If there's any hits, then I'm gonna send them to him. Otherwise, he said just do what I feel fit with them. But I do want to congratulate him on winning and everybody else who took part. Um, while I'm cracking these, Tiger's going to tell you what we're going to have coming up for the rest of the month and what you can be on the lookout for.
Starting off with, we're recording on the day that Portland Regionals registration went up. I managed to get in. Let us know if you guys did. If West Coast is your home area, or if you have to be traveling from East or Midwest to go to it. But this coming weekend, so the day after this will go live for you guys, Sean will actually be in Ohio at the Full Grips Games event,
Yep.
where they're doing a post rotation event and a GLC event. So it's like a giant 4K instead of a 1K. The Sean is a very big advocate for GLC. We are big on the grass for GLC.
Sure.
We call it the Jungle Titans. It's all about getting real big with Rillaboom and Venusaur, and then using things like Kricketot or Cricketune and Bravery Charm, things like that to make our basic guys get real big and tanky. Other than that, not a whole lot going on. We've got a couple weeks till Atlanta, so that's post rotation for all of us here in the western part of the world. Japan's already 2 sets ahead of us, but we'll catch back up to them with the Destined Rival stuff by the time. I think, don't quote me on it. You guys can let us know in the comments if we're wrong. That we'll get Destined Rivals legal for NAIC, which becomes our international and world set.
I believe you're correct on that. That's kind of how, if anybody's noticed, that's how it's been going lately in the past couple seasons. A new set's released before a big tournament, in a way to kind of leave it open. We've been calling it the Wild Wild West when that happens. I can remember we started that back in Columbus.
Yeah, sometimes post rotation events or just that being the biggest ones, but just in general, brand new set drops are always wild to go see and play in because you don't know what the meta is going to be. You have an
Yeah.
idea because XYZ influencer and XYZ deck did good at a previous Champions League, but that doesn't always mean the same thing here. Japan plays decks differently than we do. Yes, we use them as a start off and a basis, but they're BO1. So they do a little bit more consistency over increased power levels against multiple decks. That's why Raging Bolt does so well over in Japan. They want to do best of one, so they want to get in there, swing hard, maybe get a donk, or just be really consistent. But they have 25 minutes.
Yeah.
We get 50 minutes to do best of 3 at a regional. So it's easier for us to have a slightly slower deck that has a higher power level that beats Raging Bolt more consistently over a game and a half than to just, okay,
Yeah.
cool, we've got 4 turns, hope you win. Um, so what we were talking about, we were going to call this Tiger's Top Plays. This is
Yep.
Sean's title for that one. So anybody who want to call it a better name, let us know in the comments as well.
It's a workshop
Um,
in progress. Okay.
so post rotation builds and plays, things that
Hey,
Let's go,
That's not bad.
adios.
But let's
The
see.
top 5 decks that I would choose going to Atlanta. Terra Box, that is the Teal Mask, Ogre Pawn, and Friends deck. Raging Bolt, just because it's pretty consistent, not super big brain power. If you've got to do 9 rounds, it's an easy deck to do. Archaladon, whichever variant makes you happy. Charizard. Now, this is a little bit of an underrated pick, is Charizard. There's 2 variants. You've got Tropico Zard and Pidgeot Zard. You pick whichever one makes you happy. Just that archetype in general is on there. And then Rogue pick, Thorns Pole. I know everybody wants to hear Dragapult, but I think it's fake. Call me, quote me. You can mark that on here that I said Dragapult is a sham for Atlanta.
Well, there's a lot of stuff that's coming out that's definitely trying to knock the Dragapult train down. I've been one to say that Lily Sclefairy, probably one of the most impactful cards coming into this because a lot of people can play, a lot of, not people, but a lot of builds can play it, is what I mean to say. And that gives that dragon that psychic weakness, which automatically knocks it out in one hit. With a full bench, I believe is the correct term. You have to have the full bench and all that other stuff, but it knocks it out, catches it up to where it's not as powerful anymore.
For anybody who doesn't quite know what the Lily's Clefairy does that he's talking about, it's Lily's Clefairy EX, and it has an ability that makes Dragon Pokemon weak to Psychic. And its attack, if any of you are familiar with Entei V, Suicune V, Raikou V, it is a Rondo attack. So turning dragons into a Psychic weakness, a full bench on your side is 120 damage. Doubled is 240. So we're not quite there. We need to have them to have 2 more. So if you have 2 more on their side, that's 40 doubled 80, and then we get from the 240 to 320 marker, and that's enough to one shot a Dragapult, and that's as easy as an attach plus psychic plus Mela for a fire energy, a Crispin of a psychic in whatever color, a Teal Dance E-switch of grass energy plus psychic. There's so many different ways to power up Lily's Clefairy with very little effort. So many Noctowl decks out here right now. Like, all right, cool, let's get this Clefairy up and running. We ain't scared of Dragapult.
That is true. I mean, it definitely still is going to be up in the air what's going to happen. We'll find out a lot more in Atlanta, that's for sure, and probably in the next few weeks working up too. Like Tiger said, I'll be up in full grip this weekend. I won't be participating on Saturday, but that kind of gives me a unique perspective to be able to see what people are playing, see what's going around on the table, kind of be that research gatherer, see what's going on. You know, be able to talk to people and not necessarily be stuck into the rounds and play and focus on GLC on Sunday. So I'm definitely glad that that's a benefit. That's my hometown, so I'll get to see some people back home while I'm there on Saturday. Pretty much traveling all Friday. But yeah, it'll be a great time to see what really does do well. We'll see if what Tiger says with Dragapult holds up, and we'll see how many people still stick with Dragapult, and maybe they find out that it's not, the ticket anymore. And it was. It was a very good deck, played pretty pretty well. What 50%? It was not 50%, but it was high percent. 50's a lot. There was a lot going on when it first came out, is what I'm saying. A lot of people saw the Dragapult, the engine of doing 200 and spreading the damage, addition of Monkey Dory and be able to manipulate that even further. It's just crazy what those things can do.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying Dragapult is a bad deck at all. If it's what you're comfortable with, play it 100%. I'm just saying until we get the Destined Rival set to get the new Shaman coming out, for anybody who hasn't looked that far ahead, Shaman's the new Manaphy. Yeah. It's just a bench protection, so you can't get Wellspring Ogerpon. You can't get Darmanitan. You can't get Kyurem. You can't get any of this random shenanigans that really hurt Dragapult. I will 100% say that I think it'll be the BDIF, if not its top 3 when we get Shaman out. I'm just too worried about there being enough water Ogerpon going into Atlanta. And you have a really rough Walls matchup. Well, those are 2 matchups you can't really take. A bad Terra Box, bad walls, and it's pretty bad into Raging Bolt as well. It always has been.
Well,
So
those are three
take that
decks right there
how you want.
that I was actually going to have us talk about next as we go on to the Atlanta talk and explaining. It'll further help us explain what we mean about Dragapult. So you got Walls, you got Terra Box, and you got Iona's Belly Bolt. I mean, coming out. So why don't you go ahead and explain a little bit? We've done the Walls thing. We've done the Terra Box. I don't think we've tested the Iona's Belly Bolt quite yet. I think that's on our list to do. Um,
I think Iona's Belly Bolt is a sham. It's a cool niche little engine, but we've tested Walls. Walls has a really good matchup. Its problem is everybody knows about it.
yep.
If you can play a Terapagos and a Cornerstone in your deck, you're fine. You can beat Walls. Um, if it comes to Raging Bolt is its big problem is can it consistently throw the attacks back at you? With the addition to Noctowl, because Teal Mask Ogerpon is a Terra type, you can do that. You can find your Sawdust per turn. You can find your Crispins. You can find your energy retrievals and just keep chucking them back at them. There's cards like Slitherwing that lets you get through Pikachu. Pikachu is probably the biggest problem that Raging Bolt has. So if you don't know how to beat Terra Box, play a Slitherwing. If you're fine just going around the Pikachu over and over, don't play the Slitherwing. Slitherwing is an awkward setup to do. It's two fighting to swing for 120 plus burn. For those of you who are not sure how that makes a difference in the Pikachu, Pikachu is weak to fighting, so you hit it for 240. It goes back to the 190 because of the Resolute Heart ability, and then it gets burned. Burned will take over its effect, and then that happens in checkup. So the Pikachu dies in checkup after it went back down to 190, effectively having a 210 hit on it. So that's how you can one-shot the Pikachu instead of it being able to go back-to-back turns against your Raging Bolt.
Yeah, Resolute Heart being that ability that's kind of what was the one A spec that did that? I cannot remember it right now.
Survival Brace.
So yeah, being the survival brace, or some people know from the VG, the item that keeps you alive. That's definitely a hard thing to get around. But with all these status conditions coming back, the poison coming back, people are definitely finding ways around it. That's for sure.
Speaking of poison, that is one of my top picks is Poison Archaludon. Activating the Mochi package of the Brute Bonnet with the Ancient Booster Capsule to get through Pikachu as well. Archaludon has one of the best matchup spreads that are going into this event. Its problem is Goldango, Raging Bolt, and Pikachu. With the poison package, you lose a little bit of consistency, but you now can one-shot Pikachu and it sticks because of the poison. You can now one-shot Goldango because of the Mochi.
Yep.
The way Binding Mochi works is if a Pokemon is poisoned, you attach this tool to it. This tool gives you an extra 40 damage, so now you hit for 260. That's also enough to get just activating the poison package with the Perilous Jungle. All non-dark type Pokemon take an extra 2 poison. That is 220 from the Archaludon plus 3 poison ticks. That's enough to KO a Raging Bolt. If you do the full damage, it gets up to 290 because of the 260 from the Mochi and then the 30 from the poison. And if they can't get out of the active, so like a Charizard or something like that, who's worried about taking a KO or can't get rid of its energies to retreat, they're going to take some more poison damage, and you're just going to call it a day. So taking KOs in between turns is effectively one of the best things you can do because it doesn't activate Pheasantipity.
Yeah, that's what I was getting ready to say. It sounds like a lot when Tiger's explaining it, but coming from a very one-dimensional player, as I've always said I am, and work to be more of, I was able to play with it today and really start to get some of that poison package working in my benefit, adding some counters in to get some cheeky KOs, and it's not a bad thing because you still have that engine of the Archaludon, the bulkiness of the bridge, with a little bit of the poison to help you fix those numbers because 220 just wasn't quite it.
Yes, there are other variants. I think it was Azul who shared a list of playing the Hops Dubwool and a Starmie from 151.
Hmm.
The Starmie doesn't see a lot of play. What it does is that you can discard it. It doesn't give a KO. It's just discarding it. Put 2 damage counters onto a Pokemon. So you can use that to get through Pikachu. You can use that to be the extra 2 damage onto a Raging Bolt. It's just less consistent to do it repeatedly to get through some of these bigger HP Pokemon, or if they can go Night Stretcher, put Pikachu back on the board. That type of stuff is where it struggles. So you get a more consistent, aggressive Archaladon deck overall, but it still struggles less than regular Archaladon, but it struggles more than Poison Archaladon against some of these interesting numbers and one-shottable decks. And also, the Starmie doesn't KO Goldango, which is one of its hardest matchups.
Yeah, actually, that was right where we were about to go. Is Goldango. A lot of Goldango this weekend. We ran 2 cups. We'll go back just a little bit, kind of before the post row. But Goldango was seen in the finals in both. 50% conversion rate. It won Saturday, lost Sunday. Saturday's version, very consistent. It was, I mean, the most consistent Goldango I've seen. Running the Greninja, all 4 gold. He was going to make it rain repeatedly. Put it that way. That was his game plan. It happened. It all fell into place. Um, Want to congratulate him again. Reese Faultman, he came in from Maryland and won the cup. And then on Sunday, it also made it into the finals. It couldn't get it done, but on Monday, we also had post-row practice at one of our local shops, and there was a Goldango in that post-row tournament at the top. I believe Tiger can actually correct me on this. He might have saw the list a little better, but I believe he was running the Scyther with the Levincia.
I didn't get to see that one. I
Hmm.
know he was playing it, but I don't know what exactly he had in it. I know he just had the Scizor in it.
So with what I'm getting with that is I've been working on one, not totally together yet. Really haven't had the time with me focusing on GLC. But something with a Goldango, Scizor, Levincia, I really see it working, even if it's just fun. A lot of time I'm trying to keep things fun at local, play something different. Just something to think about is if you can bring 2 lightnings back from the discard, that's an automatic 100 damage that you can then add to your superior. So what I mean with that is you're instead of having to get rid of 2 superiors in order to get 8 energy or 7 energy back, or get rid of a superior and you play an energy retrieval, having to find those 2 pieces, you have that stadium in play. You can get 2 lightnings back. Then you have your superior energy retrieval. You can get your 4 back. There's your 6 to pretty much KO almost anything in your way. Uh, Again, that's very iffy. We're in a stadium war type of game where it's only going to last a turn or two. I get that, but if you hardline it and you got the scissors and stuff like that, we'll see what it does. It's something that'll we'll definitely talk about later. I couldn't get a chance to see it. I was playing a complete hops deck, like complete hops deck, not the one that we're working on now.
Yeah, speaking of the one that he's just mentioned, what we're working on, we saw an archetype of a kind of like a turbo donk deck with hops stuff in it. It plays the Cramorant, it plays the Snorlax, it plays the Zacian and the Stadium and the Tool, all the things you would see in it anyway. But what it's combined with is Iron Valiant EX. Some of you who may have been around for a little while now could remember a deck from last LAIC, not the one that just happened, but the one before that. There was a deck of Entei V and Iron Valiant EX, and all it did was a bunch of switching and try to take early KOs and donking things before it could play. This is kind of the same idea. You use the Iron Valiant to do some switches and then put some damage on a back Pokemon. So that Zacian, the Hop Zacian, its attack does 32 an active, 32 a bench, but you can use the modifiers of the Snorlax. All right, now you're hitting 60 to the active. You got the Hop's Choice Band, now you're hitting 90. Then the Stadium, you're hitting 120. So you can do up to 120 to the active Pokemon and then 30 to the bench. Now, a lot of these little babies on turn 1 and 2, don't have more than 70 HP. So you can go, all right, Iron Valiant twice, put 40 damage onto a bench Pokemon, hit the active for 120, then snipe 30 to the bench. You took two prizes on turn one, going second into single prize Pokemon, and you have the potential to just donk them because you took both their pieces on turn one.
Yeah, this definitely preys on any deck that has a slow startup, doesn't necessarily get anything out. I mean, you definitely don't want to line up against that deck with a solo Pokemon going first. I mean, being the opponent going first, because that's just not very. We did it. I mean, what 6, 7 matches that we played 6 matches with it today.
Mm-hmm.
And the Poison Arches was about the only thing that was able to kind of slow it down enough and able to do anything. But again, that was only a set to go from, so I mean, not a lot of
Right.
data to really quantify whether it was the best matchup, who wins. But let's just say
Um,
he was able to do the donk ability quite a lot.
there was one game he made me go first. Uh, started Badu. I went and got two Iron Valiants and KO'd him before the game even got to happen.
Yep.
Like all he had was a solo Badu and made me go first.
Hmm.
So there is potential to bring Iron Valiant back to the into the game. Kibbles and Bits, the old Entei Iron Valiant deck was one of my personal favorite decks I've ever. It's so fun.
Yeah.
So I highly recommend it. We'll get a list up here soon. That's one of the next couple things that I want to personally work on, getting our lists up here onto the YouTube into our Discord. And you guys can look at it and critique it. Just stay nice.
Yeah.
If you don't like something, move on. If you do, pass it on to somebody else.
Yeah. A lot of times, what I do with a lot of deck building is I'll see what Tiger's building, I'll see what other guys in the group are building, and kind of make my own. I've had this saying of the same 55. So a lot of the decks will have the same 55 cards. What I mean by that is the vast majority of that deck will be the same as everybody else is playing it. But you personally will have a few cards that you'll have different, whether that's a different supporter, whether that's a different Pokemon, whether it's just something you like. I'm one that runs keys in a lot of things. Klefki can be very annoying to abilities, basic abilities. Klefki, when it's in the active position, it shuts down all basic Pokemon abilities with a rule box, and basically they can't do anything. You go up against an old Raging Bolt, they were not able to do the Teal Mask. You're not getting all that energy out in the field really early. Is rather annoying. But that was one of those 5 cards that I would include, and maybe other people wouldn't. So as Tiger said, when it comes to deck lists, understand that it's just our opinion. It's just what we feel is good, and it may not be the best. It takes time and mistakes, trials and errors to learn what really works. Let's see. So other than that, I think the only other thing I was gonna talk about was, like I said, the biggest thing going on post row is the full grip, and so there's a big 4K doubleheader tournament going on at Full Grip Games in Akron, Ohio. I'll be going there again just for the GLC participating wise, but I'll be there Saturday to see any of the play going on, kind of do some shopping around, maybe even turn in some of these cards. I got tons sitting here. I need to go through them. If anybody's up there and sees us from the podcast, please say something. Let us know you're watching, anything like that. Definitely want to get a game on. Like I said, I'll be focusing on GLC. I love Grookey. Grookey's my guy. All right, got him right here. So I built a GLC around grass. I know it's not necessarily always the fan favorite. Um, does have a bunch of weaknesses, but I feel we've done a lot to tighten those weaknesses up to make it to where even if it is an unfavorable game state, you can turn it around, and it just takes a few different cards. It's absolutely crazy how it works. I hope we get a chance to. I don't want to divulge too much about it because I want to keep it, you know, a little bit tight to me. Just until after this, just because GLC there's not much variables. You know what I mean? There are and isn't. Like you usually have a set list of what people are going to play. I'm veering away from that to see how it works. And I just want to give it an accurate play test. So Tiger helped me very much with it. I'll tell you, he gave it a very good standard look.
Sometimes you got to meta even the alternate formats.
So,
One last thing that we want to talk about. We did mention about the double cup that we had. A Roaring Moon deck actually won the second cup,
I forgot about that.
but it was an aggressively tooled build. It played water energies like some used to play, but it played the Power Glass in it. So Power Glass actually is it's new technology in an older deck. So in Zorark plays Power Glass to be able to chain the Darmanitan attacks. So the theory with that is the same with Greninja. Greninja attaches an energy, throw one away, turn one, attach the Power Glass, it gets the extra energy right back. So that way when it comes back to your turn, you attach one energy and the Power Glass accelerated an extra. You can chain Greninja attacks extremely easy for turn two KOs on multiple Pokemon. If they aren't ready for it and waiting, that's an easy way to clean up
Mhm.
games. That's an easy way to just get turn two dongs.
Yeah, I watched a lot of his
Um,
opponents really have no idea. A lot of them pick up the Power Glass and be like, "What? What's this do?" Yeah, it's definitely a powerful tech.
yeah, it's so both of the attacks, the Darmanitan attack and the Greninja attack, both discard energies from the active Pokemon. So you're feeding the Power Glass ability instantaneously by discarding the energies, and then at the end of the turn, putting one back instantaneously. So if it doesn't get KO'd, you just attach again for turn and do it all over again. So that was it was interesting to see an older deck be able to use a new tech and feel fresh.
Yeah, definitely. Like I said, something that took a lot of people by surprise. One kid lined up, and honestly, all he started was Duskull, and it was game over. I mean, obviously that's not good either, but and then the Dragapult that he was playing too could never get started. I mean, every single turn it was boom, boom. Definitely a tough thing to come back from, but look for it in the ends Darmanitan because, like Tiger said, that's where it's looking to be played. New technology and old deck. Kind of cool to see it happen right before rotation. And Greninja says bye bye.
All right, that's all I've got, Sean. Is there anything
Yeah.
else you want to add?
Now I'm gonna share my two pools from this week. How about that? So I got the Waylord and the Iona's Belly Bolt, and I believe this Waylord is probably gonna be like the Magikarp of a set or two ago. I'm gonna take it out of the top loader so you guys can see it a little bit better. But this one is a very beautiful card. Of course, my lights aren't working with me here. I can see this playing a lot in GLC. It has a Hydro Pump attack, which most of you are familiar with. The more energy attached to it, the more damage it does. With all the different tools that water has to quickly attach energy, I can definitely see this being somebody I need to watch for this weekend in GLC. So, kind of keeping it here. And again, the way my build is, I have no problem getting to 240. So let's go.
Let's get them big boys out the way.
Yeah. All right, guys. Like Tiger said, that's all we got for this week. We'll It's kind of shorter episode, but hey, it's good for one of those every now and again. We'll see if we can't get maybe a guest speaker next week. Maybe I'll talk to someone at Full Grip this weekend and get them up on the show. I'm sure there'll be a bunch of people there from the regional scene that would be willing to do so. Get an interesting perspective on maybe something they played that tournament or something like that. But other than that, you guys out there stay lucky, and we'll see you next time.